Il Siracusano has been an event. A new broken meta operator and her controversy, a banger boss fight no matter how you look at it, and an amazing event map. People have differing opinions about Il Siracusano, both about its gameplay and story. The later is too overcomplicated and switches around too much for many. It doesn't make it particularly easy to understand all the ongoings about the fight of different mafia families over the control of a new city. And that's fair. Arknights in general is not easy to understand at first readings, especially not this case. Il Siracusano's nuances and details only really shine through after one read it twice, or maybe 4 times. At heart lies a power struggle between a plethora of involved players, all with their own agenda and ideals. They manage to be interesting on their own and contribute to the ensuing of the happenings. With its complexity, not many would be able to accurately retell them. If there is anything though that everyone remembers about the story, then I bet it would be the rousing speech of one inconspicuous man. Siracusa's government is certainly an exceptional one. While governmental institutions exist, the real rulers are the Famiglia, using their power to control said institutions from the background, under the iron grip of Signora Sicilia. Il Siracusano takes place in Volsigny, during a background power struggle over the control of a newly developed city. In all of this, a lot of bigwigs take their actions, leaving not much space for the common folk to appear in the story. One such common man is the Minister of Food Safety of Volsigny, Rubio Pacino. His position is not a particularly exciting or high-ceiling one, but it feeds him and his daughter. Add to that this position leaves him organizing almost every small and big banquet in the city, and you get a rather comfortable job with connections to powerful Famiglia relatives. As Syracusan people have grown used to the sights of street wars, robberies and outright murders in their daily life, Rubio is wary about the dangers of his country and is obviously worried about the life of himself and his daughter. That's why he is ready to lower himself as much as necessary in the eyes of the powerful Famiglia and kiss their asses. Due to this image, his wife divorced him, believing that he is only a useless and timid man. Besides his wife, other government officials disdain him for his behavior and his overall looks too, which they find unbefitting for a minister. From this, Rubio is introduced as the typical slimeball who's only after his own selfish benefit. Not an all too criticizable way of living in Siracusa though. This impression of him gets only worse after a close acquaintance of his, the Minister of Public Works, Caracci, died during an assassination. While he admired him for his endeavors in caring for the civilians, he thinks he didn't get much out of it, besides his death. He would later even be happy about it, saying that this became his chance of becoming the minister himself. His demeanor lifted him in the perfect spot of being harmless and obedient enough for the Famiglia. This let him hear a lot more than normally during banquets. Higher Famiglia representatives would not care about his attendance. He would anyways never use this information, in fear for his life. Exactly this enabled him to know about the plan Bernardo and Alberto had about the new city. Because of this, he offered himself as the new puppet minister of public work to Bernardo, knowing fully well that he would need an easy to control public face. He sells this ambition of his with the fact that people have been looking down on him his whole life. He wants to have this feeling of power now, upon which Bernardo accepted. As we all know though, this was only the mask Rubio created for himself to hide his true thoughts and ambitions. Rubio is a smart man. He knows how this country works. The time point when he realized this was when he witnessed the ways of the Famiglia firsthand. A government building that has been a thorn in the eyes of one has been eradicated silently. An eerie silence when entering made him suspicious already. This turned into hell on earth when he noticed the pools of blood seeping from under the office doors, one of which belonged to his father. No one would talk about this, not even his mother. They all knew that this was an inevitable action by a Famiglia, so what could anyone do besides cowering in fear of getting caught up in this if one spoke up? The next day, the building would seamlessly return to a normal workday, with a new set of people being there, just as if nothing ever happened yesterday. This is where it dawned on Rubio. Keep a low record, work in earnest, and pray you'd never be in the way of a Famiglia. What else could one do to stay alive in Siracusa? He went through his life with this attitude until he got to know Karachi. Karachi chose a different approach. If you can't win against the Famiglia, use them. Play their game. As such, he played them out against each other, gained favors, and used them for bills and laws he wanted to implement. Charismatic and intelligent as he was able to slither through these politics without ever choosing a side, nor getting killed by one, although there were many attempts to assassinate him. He made himself a man that knew how to use the carrot as well as the stick. Rubio admired this courage to stand against the Famiglia and use this position for the good of the commoners. He embodied what Rubio sees in Siracusa. The power doesn't lie with the Famiglia, but with the people. Rubio was not courageous enough to be like Karachi, and he was content with supporting him and being his friend. In his inauguration speech as the Minister of Public Work, which was broadcasted to the whole of Ulcinea, this image of Karachi is what Rubio opened with. Unbeknownst to the other listening people, what he tells them here, and what he will still tell them, is not the entirety of his thoughts. At the same time as the speech, Lavinia is reading his diary as he asked her to give his daughter some company. During their talk about this, they came to the subject of Karachi. Rubio still hid his true face during this, and especially points out the one fact that he laments about Karachi. While his actions made the life of the people better, they still suffer under the same system, and now that he's dead, what did he leave? Some leverages in an unchanged city. This angers Lavinia, of course, since she also respected Karachi a lot. Rubio counters her though. Of course this gives you anger, but what comes after that? Anger doesn't change their lives, nor do great ideals like those of Karachi. What counts first and foremost is being alive. Only then can you even start to think about how to take action. Something Karachi can no longer do. Coming back to Lavinia reading Rubio's diary. His diary contains the deepest of his thoughts and his actual feelings. His admiration for Karachi and also Lavinia that he had to hide to preserve his image, and his understanding of Siracusa. Signora Cecilia has cemented the two-power system that they have right now with the existence of an external and internal set of rules. A government and the Famiglia. Since the Famiglia are essentially tied down by blood relations, their numbers hardly grow, and even if, do so very slowly. So, you have a number of groups that want to rule, let's say, a city, but have only so many people at their disposal. How do you rule a city like that? Simple answer is, you don't. You let institutions run in the foreground, and try to control them from the shadows. The Famiglia were never built to becoming ruling entities, but as the society and country developed in size and technology, so too had they to change. The old way of solving everything with violence stopped working, and so they had to resort to manipulation. This led to Karachi saying that these days the Famiglia are weak. Unbeknownst to themselves, they had to adapt to the society. It is only their iron grip of force and Cecilia's Grey Hall system that stops the society from slowly making them obsolete in Siracusa. It's like having an old bike and still using it, despite having a brand new one that is better in every aspect, but you always used your old one. Habits don't die, and in a sense, the Famiglia can be seen as such a habit to Siracusa. Rubio expresses this in his speech, although he is by far not as direct as he wrote in his diary. At this point, he also makes clear that this is not an inauguration speech to the people. Karachi's death brought him to his last straw, and as he saw his chance, he took it, to thwart what he believed to be a big Famiglia's plan, and also give the people hope. Karachi saw himself in a comfortable position, having Rubio as someone who would carry his ideals if he would die. And now Rubio gives this torch on to Lavinia, and anyone who is touched by his words. Knowing full well that he would face death soon anyways, by the hands of those he betrayed with his speech, Rubio chose to end his life by himself, letting a gunshot echo throughout the whole of Volsigny. Not only would this make Lavinia and others take action immediately, it is also said that this would later be seen as the first step for Siracusa towards a new era. What Il Siracusano achieves with this scene is brilliant. A character you look down on throughout the story turns into a martyr of sorts. The build-up throughout Rubio's speech is great. The constant back and forth between sceneries in Il Siracusano might not always be good, but it creates a very powerful effect here. The switching between Rubio talking to the people and Lavinia reading his diary provide a comparison between his raw thoughts and how he chose to express those in public, and what else he kept to himself. Rubio was not a great man. That's not how he would have called himself. Time and place brought him to a situation where he couldn't act otherwise. His frustration over the Famiglia's reign has been building up his whole life, and Karachi's death was one loss too much that he had to endure. Like always in life, this decisive act of Rubio is not only black or white. It's an admirable deed, especially since Rubio won't get to know what his action started, or if it would change nothing at all. A sacrifice for others is not something everyone can give. While this might help others get to know that they are not alone in their struggles, it leaves one person more broken than anyone experiencing such a suicide life: his daughter. Lavinia would take her in after her father's death, but her operator record shows that this experience is something she will likely have to fight with for the rest of her life. We don't get to know much about Rubio's feelings for his daughter, but what is clear is that he loved her dearly. Making his decision in the end was surely not an easy one. He had to wager a chance he waited for decades against his daughter. In the end, Rubio became a character who stole the show from so many high potential characters and made Il Siracusano an unforgettable event. Even though I forgot almost everything about the event and its structure, this was the one part that remained in my head, and I'm sure that it will stay that way.